What's good to you two, man? Welcome to the house. Today we have a special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kyler Lemieux. I'm also known as Dally, and I'm from No Tier Gaming.
And what did you do?
I ended up taking fourth place with Pure Time Thief at the
At the,
PPG. Yeah,
PPG Weekly, right?
yes,
Alright, let's go ahead and get into your list. You lead us on through. I'll just be following you around.
sure. So we'll just go through the hand traps first, because that's the easiest part. So I have the three Ash, the three Veiler, and the two Mourner, and then I also have the three Gamma, which are part of the actual engine of the Time Thief deck right now. And I just thought, for the most part, these are the most effective hand traps because this deck can't really play impermanence because you do run triple shade brigadine. It conflicts with it too much to really be worth a slot. And then you also have the normal summonable hand traps in the Veiler and the Mourner and the Ash as working with Parallel Exceed. Next card there. One
Yeah,
of
I
your
see
cards.
people try to debate Veiler and, Mourner, but then, you just run both.
Yeah, I mean, they both have the different applications. Mourner is specifically better on your turn for like stuff like Dismech Uka, or if your opponent does like a Masquerena play on your turn, it just stops it, whereas Veiler doesn't do that, either doesn't perm. So they'll just have their different places. I think Mourner not being a hard one per turn makes it slightly worse than Veiler in some situations, but it's fine for what it is. I think two is just fair for it.
Also, I feel like Gamma's something you don't see as much these days.
I think normally it's not worth the brick. Previously, we saw like the Lunalight Time Thief deck was really good at going into the Lambda plus the Redoer, and this deck is also good at doing that. And you want to have a card that protects your main starter.
Yeah, I really ended up liking it more as time went on. I used to not like Driver either, but some decks just weren't it.
Oh my god, I hate Driver so much. I played a very similar list at the first LCS, and I opened Driver in like eight of my hands out of like my ten opening hands because I was sideboarding it, and 8 out of 10 times I opened it. It was just awful.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like that. Alright, let's start to get into the other parts of your engine then.
Okay, sure. So we have the three parallel exceed. This is one of the big reasons the deck is like good right now and is playable. You have your Time Thief engine, which is basically based around Time Thief regular and Time Thief Winder being extremely strong starters and extenders. Regular to starter, winders and extender, and Regular's effect is that if you control the monster, you contribute it to special summon two Time Thieves from your deck. Normally, one being Winder, which allows you to search, and then the other one having Graveyard Utility, making it for easier rain 4 plays. However, obviously, you have cards like Ash, Veiler, and Impermanence, which are problematic for it. Specifically, in the case of impermanence, there's really no good answer for it. Like, I don't want to play Forbidden Lance or Saravis for it. So there wasn't any good answer for it previously. And Parallel Exceed came out, and it basically says, well, if you imperm or Veiler me, as long as I have Parallel Exceed, I can just link my regulator for an All Mirage and still make my play. And so your hand trap still did something, but it didn't completely end my turn like it might have before. And that was just one of the huge things for this deck, being that now you have multiple ways to play against all the hand traps through your regulator.
Yeah, that seems really good. Like, I'm seeing Exceed end up in a lot more builds than I thought it would initially. Like, people were really excited for the card, and I was like, is it going to just be, like, helping people end on Dweller, or is it going to be helping route up through the turns? And definitely, it's just helping people respond to things and just go through their turns completely.
Yeah, it's just an additional extender, and it's one of those cards where it allows you to play through things that you wouldn't otherwise have been able to before. I had a feature match for the final round where my opponent ashed my regulator, and I didn't have any way to stop it, but I just activated Zodiac Barrage, was able to go into the Lambda, and then just special summon Parallel Exceed, and was able to make the Redoer and get into the Gamma plus Redoer plus trap card board, and I just kind of snowballed from there because that Parallel Exceed just being such a free extender where it just special summons a monster, where it just special summons another copy of itself and gives you easy rank 4 access is huge.
Alright, let's get into some of the other cards. I see some rockets in here.
Yeah, so I decided to add the rocket engine because there's not really that many good rank 4 engine or like rank 4 like extenders in the game that don't have huge drawbacks or don't just conflict with the best card in your deck, Time Thief Regulator. I know a lot of people are on the Pendulum one, the Abyss Actor that special summons. I see that one. I just don't really like it because, like I said, Regulator is your best card. You have to control no monsters to use its effect, and it just naturally like is anti synergy, and I really don't like that. previously the deck had Barrage and Instant Fusion at 3, both at 3, which was super huge for its extenders. But since we lost those, we needed to find a new one, and I thought Quick Launch was the most viable. And then you also have Tracer, which is just super good utility overall, because there was a lot of matches where I would like go like Activate Cosmic Cyclone, chain Tracer, and was able to make a rank 4 just off like a Tracer, and it essentially costed me nothing. So the Rocket Engine was just the safest route. I think, though, going forward, I would just play 2 Tracer over the Silver Rocket, because there's just no reason not to.
All right, and we've obviously started talking a bit about the Zodiacs. You only choose to play, it looks like, a couple of them.
Yeah, so the engine, it's pretty normal summon reliant. The only real reason you want to play it is it's 1 card XZs, and your Time Thief Winder allows you to special summon itself from the hand by detaching a material, meaning it immediately turns on Chakanine or Tiger Mortar, and so it allows you to get set up for really easy rank 4 plays. And with using the Ram, which I've been switching between Thoroughblade and Ram, you're able to make some really easy 4 plays off of like a Rat or a Barrage, and then Ram or Thoroughblade, whichever you choose to play. Both aren't the greatest to draw, but they can still allow you to extend pretty easily if you do have the Winder with it. So the engine's just super strong. I've played it. I've played this at 3 different events now, or technically 4, and 3 out of 4 I've made. I've gotten 10th, 12th, and now 4th at 2 regionals, and then 4th at the weekly. And I've always played the Zoo Engine. It's just so strong. It just does so much in this deck because it allows you to just have. It's a really easy way to extend into bigger boards.
I was kind of surprised not to see Megaclops as a backup play, because sometimes when you draw Barrage with the wind-up engine, it's pretty easy, because like you said, you summon the Winder, and then you're able to Chakanine, and pretty much right there, you have Megaclops as a power play. What makes you choose not to play that?
It just takes too much, like, it's too easy to stop. Like, if you look at the top decks right now, Eldritch has no problem answering it. And for the most part, Adamanticators don't really either. It's just easy to swing over with something like Savage, or just pop with Hook or Conquistador. So it takes a lot of resources to middle. It's weak to Nibiru, it's weak to Ash, it's weak to pretty much every hand trap combination you can think of. So didn't find it worth the extra deck slot.
Okay, am I wrong about Megaclops? 1 second. Megaclops. He is unaffected by other monster effects except Xyz. Yeah, that's why I like look at him sometimes, because he's just completely unaffected at times. The Eldritch is right, because the traps just end up hitting them before he's a monster, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just able to be popped by the trap cards. So it's like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Within this metagame, I just experienced it recently. I've summoned him and been like, all right, I have this, and he just gets destroyed. I was just like thinking like it feels like he could fit in, but your extra deck's also extremely tight for what you're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, you're trying to play a rank 4 package, and you also do a lot of link spamming, so it's really tight to fit. And there's a couple cards I want to move around personally that like.
Yeah, like I personally respect heavily that you're doing Lambda. I'm not seeing that enough right now, and it's something that I've been thinking would creep into a metagame.
Yeah, especially with Parallel Exceed, it's just so easy to make Redoer Lambda into Parallel Exceed into Redoer, and you just get that free Gamma interaction, and you can also like have the chance to take a trap, or in this case, this deck just guarantees a trap almost every time on it.
Is there anything specific you want to say about any of the Time Thieves before we move to Spell and Traps?
Yeah, so the Time Thief engine itself is just really, really strong. There's so much recursion in all the cards. So the Winder is like your extender and your searcher. Bezel Ship recurs every turn and also works as an interaction. It's basically a DD Crow from the graveyard. Chrono Quarter is a really good extender, because a lot of hands, the easiest play you'll make is like you'll make like Regulator and have like a Winder, or like any other extender. It allows you can detach the Chrono Quarter from Redoer, banish the Redoer, and then it'll trigger the Chrono Quarter in the graveyard. So it's just like a super free extender almost every time you can make Redoer. And then whenever an XYZ is removed by a card effect, you can bring Chrono Quarter back. And then Regulator can just special summon itself from the graveyard when an XYZ destroy a battle. So the whole engine just kind of like keeps recycling itself through XYZs as they remove them. And you just get to keep replacing everything. And then the monsters themselves are just free ascension. Like Regulator's just a crazy powerful card. It's a +2 on its own. And then when you look at like how much advantage you gain just from like having a Redoer backed up with like a retrograde, it's just insanely strong.
All right, let's get into your spell choices. Maxed out on Called by the Grave.
Yeah, Redoer is weak to Ash, Ash Ogre, and just those cards just mess it up so much. You really like require that reducer effect going off a lot of the time, and you also just don't want to get hit by an Ash when you're regular or something. So just having more ways to stop that, the better. I mean, Call Vice just been good since
Double
it came out.
Cosmic, I assume, is for Eldritch purely or anything else?
It was for Eldritch, and then I know a lot of people are kind of hyping up Strikers right now, and I was worried about having to deal with a Mystic Mind, so I just wanted out to it. And the other option is Dino Mistis, but this deck doesn't really create too much discard fodder outside of like extra gammas.
And then we've already been over Quick Launch and Barrage. Floodgate Trap Hole. Haven't seen this card in a while.
So I was messing around with a different rank 4 deck, which is the Onomatopera, the Onomat combo deck, and I noticed like you can make Reflection now because of the Gravedigger's Trap Hole, and it allows you to play through Nibiru. And sometimes like you'll get the negate, Gravediggers in, but then you kind of want like that Reflection to do something more. And Floodgate's just kind of really strong against a lot of stuff. Like if you Floodgate versus Adamancipator and just like set their first normal summon face down, there's hands where they just have to pass.
And then we have Phantom Knight Shade Brigandine, one of the by far like best level 4 extenders. Period.
Yeah, it's insanely good as an extender, but specifically in the Time Thief deck, because you're trying to go into Redoer, it turns Redoer into a bounce like on turn 1, or when you're going second, it's just a free bounce on Redoer, because his effects is dependent on which card he detaches. If he detaches a monster, he banishes himself. If he detaches a spell, you draw a card. And if you detach a trap, you can non-targeting bounce one card to the top of your opponent's deck. And so it allows them to be very versatile, and there's not really much that protects anything from a non-targeting bounce.
All right, we also have 2 Time Thief Flyback, and then we also have the new Time Thief Retrograde. Well, new relative.
Yeah. So Flyback allows you to attach one Time Thief card to one Time Thief XYZ you control as an XYZ material. So it allows you to go like the play that catches a lot of people off guard for me is I'll go like Redoer effect, and they'll only see a monster on there, so they'll just think I'm banishing, and I'll just chain Flyback and put a trap underneath, and it'll give me a free bounce uninterrupted. Whereas otherwise they might stop me with like an Ash or Imperm or Ogre. But since they don't see anything on it, they don't really care, and then they just get to remove a monster for free. And it also has the added benefit that you can banish it from the graveyard to attach one card from your opponent's graveyard as a material, meaning versus like just random stuff, you can just stop their turn completely. Like versus Dinos, I know I've just taken like a Miscellaneousaurus and they weren't able to recover from that. Or versus like Adamancipators, I've stolen the Block Dragon from their graveyard and they just couldn't set up after it. There's just a lot of like little like weird interactions. This deck is really just a game of just little small pluses and like netting your opponent here and there that adds up just into you steamrolling wins.
Yeah, definitely with Eldritch too, taking their traps that have to banish in the end phase and taking those away also.
Yeah, and you just get to spin like Golden Lord back on top, so they don't really have access to it right away. Is also really nice for that in that matchup.
All right, let's speed through the side deck a little because it's starting to get a bit long for the video, and then go for tournament because I love getting into people's tournaments and talking about like the cool things that happen during those during deck profiles when I can.
Oh, sure. So let's speed through. We have the Pankratops. It just fits really well in the deck. I mean, you can Tidal your monster, so it's never really dead and just strong card. And there's a reason it's at 1. We have the third Mourner for when it goes second. It just auto stops the generic combo garbage. So just having more copies of it is nice. The third Cyclone for control, like for back row matchups. I played a striker, and having the Cyclones was just destroyed him completely. Triple Dark Ruler, standard unit for going second against combo. Triple Storm, kind of the same deal. It's just blow out card. Triple Evenly, blow out card, and then the 3 Teekaboo because it's strong versus Adamancipator in Eldritch when you go first, and this deck doesn't really stick too many of the same monsters on board because everything's kind of wildly different.
I want to add one thing I like. Some people avoid one-ofs in side decks, and I completely disagree with that. Like, if it's a power card and you know it'll still end up being useful for you, just because you're not going to see it all the time or consistently, I still think it's good to play those. Like, also Red Reboot, I see some people like, nah, I'm not going to play just the one. I think it's important to acknowledge one-ofs in the side decks.
Yeah, I think just actually I had someone like ripping on me for playing the one Barrage and the one Rat, and I was like, I mean, they're just so strong, you have to. Like, some people just see like I can't play it at 3, it must not be good. But like if you look at cards like Imperial Order, that card can just win games on its own, and I think it's crazy that people still want to run it because it's a one of.
All right, let's move to the extra deck.
So we have the Light Dragon Adagnister. It's basically it protects your doer from destruction, and it also is just a free pop on the opponent's board. It's basically mini Dingrisu. And then we have Perpetua, kind of one of the Heart and Souls deck. This allows you to make a lot of your power plays. It can recur from graveyard and attach a material to Redoer or any XYZ. So it just allows you to continuously guarantee you have disruption, and it also allows you to kind of keep building your board up. It's really powerful when it comes to like if it sticks for like 2 turns, you're putting out 2 extra monsters for free.
Yeah, I
Normally
know Lunalight was really using this as well.
Yeah, especially if you get that Masquerena on board too, you get to easily just go into like Appaloosa at regionals. I was going into like turn 1 like Perpetua, Redoer, Masquerena, and then dropping like an Appaloosa and having like still 2 hand traps in my hand. It was just nuts.
Redoer's obviously the star of the show.
Yeah, he's your best card. Usually, if you don't make him, you don't win. I think I played a match for Sky Striker where I actually never summoned it because he stopped it every single time, but I still won against it just from beatdown and resource management. Tornado Dragon, and just he pops stuff. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he does.
Rafflesia, I didn't really like. I made this card once. It in theory seems okay, where you like it helps you play through Nibiru, but because your main card is Redoer, it's not that important. I would honestly probably cut the Rafflesia, Gravediggers, and Floodgate Trapulches out of the deck at this point. They're nice, but when you draw the Floodgate or Gravediggers going second, it just feels really bad.
And we've already been over Chalk and Nine and Trident. Then we get into your Link monsters.
I played Bortlesword just because I wanted a generic way to just kill some people. It's really all the card's for. It just sometimes kills people for 0 reason. Bujinki Ahashima. So Sam Shanner, one of the other people who plays Time Thief a lot, he told me this card was really good, and then I came up a lot for him. I've never summoned this card. I'm definitely cutting it. It's very mediocre, it feels like.
And then everything else is pretty much we've explained through Masquerena, the Nightmares, and then having Lambda / Almirage.
Yeah, just pretty simple, like pretty generic standard stuff in the extract for links.
All right, my favorite part. Let's talk about your tournament. If you want to go round by round or just notables, whatever you want to walk us through.
Sure. So round 1, I actually just had a bye. My opponent didn't show up, so I had a free win there. Round 2, I played versus Draco, and at this point, that deck's just a buy. It's not consistent. I think I think game 1 I just opened like well, and they can't really recover from like I think Cyclone plus like a bounce, and then an Ash just stopped him completely. And then the next game, I think I just Lightning Stormed him for all his back row, and he didn't really have any follow up from there. That's just not good anymore. It's too fragile. And then after that, I played versus Crusadia, which is kind of surprising. For some reason, I always end up playing versus Crusadia at events sometime in like round 3 or 4. But yeah, this deck is just too overwhelming for that deck, and you can jump out and like dodge their kaijus and their slumbers, and like you have a lot of weird interactions that they just can't manage to deal with. And I just kind of overwhelmed him. And we actually got a repair. We actually got a repair as I was about to attack him for game because of the server crashed for Dueling Book, and they had to reset it. So I was attacking him for game, and then we got forced to just replay the game we were in. So I ended up actually 3-0ing him.
Yeah, Crusadia is one of those very interesting engines that you don't hear as much anymore, but like I feel like is still always there.
Yeah, it's scary. It's whenever you have to worry, like whenever you see it, you have to be worried that you're just gonna die. And it's a lot of decks like that. Cyber Dragons like that, Fluffles are like that. You just kind of fear you're gonna die for no reason because they can just do that if they open well enough.
Yeah.
After that, I played versus the guy who won the event. I played versus Adamantispiters in round 4. So game 1, I opened like the nuts, and I was able to just end on like a board of like Trident, Masquerena, Redoer, Perpetua, pass. And then I think I had 2 sets and a hand trap still. And my opponent kind of looks at the board. He special summons Petting Cessor, puts it in defense, so he can't actually just swing over my Trident. Because I wasn't really going to do anything other than just pop it. And he puts in defense, goes, fuck, like he swears, and just like scoops immediately. Because he needed it specifically to swing over the Giant to force one interaction, because he had Guardian plus something else that he'd 8. So he could have played through had he not done that, possibly.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, and then in game 2, I think I just ashed him and I mournered him, and then he whiffed on Seeker Effect, and he ended on like a Dragtite plus a Hauti Fibrax and like a Seeker, and like that was his whole board. And I was just kind of looking at it like, that's not very scary. And I ended up just like immediately evenly matching him, and he just stooped instantly. Like he's like, I'm not playing through that. Round 5, I played versus the PA player that won, Farkian. Really high ranked player. I think he's like top 20. I played versus him, and game 1, I opened like a kind of okay hand, and then I got hit by 2 hand traps, and then he just went normal Farfa special summon Graph, make a Dante, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, I have literally no interactions left. I can't do it. I have like a Veiler versus BA, and they didn't summon Rhino or Tour Guide. I'm in a horrible position, so I just scooped it up. And then we went to game 2, and I literally opened 5 monsters and no way to special summon anything. My play was like summon Winder and like pass with an Ashen hand. And he just went set 3, and I was like, well, this is going to be a bad time. And I think we grinded for like a couple turns, but he just got way too much advantage and I couldn't recover. The round after that, I played Sky Striker. And in game 1, I was top decking, trying to win the game. And like, we were like almost completely out of resources. He top decked a Ray for turn, was able to clear everything but the one of my Winders on board. He guarded like 2 or 3 monsters. And then he's at 200 life points at this point. I top deck for turn, and I pull a Psyframe Driver. I normal summon Driver, attack into it, and he only has 8 spells in the graveyard. He's at 200 life points, and he gets perfect game by Driver, and he can't Widow Anchor it to protect himself.
Yeah, you mean Tribute Summon, right?
Oh yeah, Tribute Summon the Driver, so he can't Widow Anchor me to protect him. So I just did a really easy win there. Game 2, I tried not to overextend, but he ended up having not having any hand traps. He just completely blew me out with all the Striker spell and traps. Like I got Afterburners twice and jamming once. And
yeah, a lot of people forget about Widow Anchor not being able to take certain cards. Like I always, it's a funny joke that you can't Widow Anchor a Fortress Whale despite all of its text because it's not an effect monster.
Oh yeah, it's just a non-effect. Yeah, it was funny because like I don't think there was any card in my deck other than Psyframe Driver specifically that I could have drawn to win that game. Like,
hey, he's paying you back for all those drawings.
Yeah, I only saw him twice. I only saw him twice today. One time he won me the game, so not too bad. Yeah, and then in game 2, he just smoked me. Like I couldn't do anything. I tried not to overextend when I definitely should have overextended, and I just got beaten hard. And then in game 3, he went set 5, and I drew evenly. I was like, okay, I mean we evenly, it's just judgment or whatever. And I slowly just play through the board, and it eventually comes down to he Nibiru's me, but he leaves me a token, and I haven't normal summoned yet. So I make Masquerena special summon Parallel Exceed. He imperms it. I pass turn. I make Unicorn bounce the Nibiru, and he draws Judgment, Afterburners, and just gets punched by Nightmare Phoenix till he loses. And then the final round I played versus surprisingly it was Buster Blader, like good. It was Buster Blader Good Link, and I actually have no idea what it did because I won the die roll. I got to go first, and I opened up with like 2 hand traps plus plus Regulator, Barrage, and Parallel Exceed, I think, and I just made a full board and he couldn't do anything. And then in game 2, he went Hauti Fibrax. I mournered it. He passed turn with like 1 set. He flips over a point of the Red Lotus, looks at my hand. I have like Paintertops. I think my hand was like Paintertops, Winder, Quick Launch, Cyclone, and Ash. And he goes, I don't even know what I'm going to do here. And then I had to see his hand. It's like one of the Buster Blader monsters and a Despot 001. And I just completely destroy him. It wasn't even close after that.
Yeah.
But the event was fun overall. I've played in I think 3 PPG tournaments now, and they always run really nicely. I play really fast, so I never go into time, so it doesn't really bother me that they have the 15-minute time rule. I think I've gone into time 1 time overall, and it was just because we had like insanely long grind games. Like,
yeah, George's events are super nice. If you all don't know the events we're talking about, Pro Play Games host online tournaments. This is the free one to enter, right? 110 people showed up, and it's really cool what they do for the community, and they put on a show, they have commentators, and it's really cool to watch.
Yeah, it's a really nice production, and it's really nice how fast like it gets done. My problem with the LCS, I was gonna enter the last one for the Luxury Games tournament last weekend, but I was like, man, I just can't commit myself to having these 2-hour rounds sometimes. Like, I'm literally gonna be playing Yu-Gi-Oh from the time I wake up until like 10 o'clock, and half of it's gonna be me sitting in my room just waiting for people to finish up in time. So it's very nice that they just go quickly. Like you're gonna be like our new round, our new round, our new round.
Yeah, super fair. Everyone's gonna have their preferences. The LCS has put on a really good show, in my opinion, as well. I've personally enjoyed their tournaments and the level of gameplay there, but both have had extremely big names in the top cuts.
Yeah, I mean, I missed the top cut for the LCS two, because I took a game loss round one, not showing up, and it just killed my tiebreakers.
Oof.
But I like the LCSs. I like the level of players you have to face. Like rarely do you have to play like multiple like worlds qualifiers or like national champions in like one tournament. So it's really nice to have like that big community all together at once, and a lot of people enter it. It's just I couldn't do it. I didn't have a deck I really liked, and without a deck I liked, I was just like I don't want to sit through like 12 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh in one day, just where half of it's just me at my computer. You don't have that social aspect to it as much.
All right, man. Well, any shout outs here to round us out and any final notes?
Um, I just think Time Thief is a really underrated deck. There's literally no one else who has performed with the pure variant other than me since it came out, and I think pretty much every event I've gone to, I've gone at worst X2.
Yeah, Time Thief is a super interesting engine. Like, it's. People were excited for new cards, and then it was the OCG support and drop. So I'm just hoping it bounces around time, but we have no clue the future of the archetype or anything like that.
Yeah, it just needs like one or two cards, honestly, to be like a very viable like road contender overall, I think. Um, and I really like the deck. It's super interesting. I think the first time I played an event, I actually dyed my hair though silver for Redoer.
That's pretty cool.
All right, but I think that's really all I have to say. Hope some people try the deck out. It is really hard to pilot, and you're gonna have to get a lot of practice with it first. I want to say like overall, I probably have like 200, 300 matches minimum with just this like Time Thief.
Yeah, I was saying this about Ryan Yu and winning with strikers, but the thing is, whenever you're playing a reactive deck, you have to know everything else extremely well. And pretty much what you are playing is something where you need to know when to react, when to use your resource, where you're going to do it, and that's something you're going to have to learn to do in this kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! And not every single deck needs that. Most decks are like, all right, I have 3 negates, I can burn one here. Oh, you have another thing, and I'll negate again. Whereas this is like, okay, I'm going to hold banish here, and then like have my stuff live, afterwards, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I like decks like this though, because they feel really rewarding when you get to punish your opponent super hard for like something small. It just feels really good because like, especially when they don't know the deck very well, like almost nobody knows what these cards do, and it's fairly, well, I shouldn't say really, it's fairly consistent. That's the main issue. That it's got some consistency issues, but it's fairly consistent, and it's like when you know how to react to your opponent and you can make reads. Like I've played pretty much every deck in the game, so I can read most of what my opponents are going to do. You can really punish people hard with it, and it just feels really good, especially when people don't expect to lose to this.
All right, man. Well, thanks a ton for sharing the list. And again, do you have any last minute shout outs or anything like that?
I would just shout out Pro Play Games for hosting all these great tournaments. They have them up constantly, and I know George is under a lot of pressure for a lot of stress and pressure for doing this. I've had some conversation with him in between casting for them, and he puts in a lot of time for it. It's really nice to have all these events going, and all the judges and all the other people who help run it. Um, Other than that, I mean, like just my team, No Tier Gaming, and the YouTube channel that we have where we play. I mostly play Rogue, so it's a lot of weird Rogue decks on there.
All right, I'll try to link that down below for you also.
All right, perfect. I mean, that's it. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you.